welcome to week one of the Bill Nees Football Coaches Show. I am athletic director and host today, Chip Hare. With me is the head football coach going into year 23, Coach Bill Nees. Coach, thanks for joining with us today. As it's a happy day when we meet, when we get a win.
It is. It was a big win for us Friday night. Big trip up there, quality opponent, all the right pieces for a big night, and we were able to pull through the big victory.
Before we get into the Toledo-St. John's, let's talk a little bit before and rewind to that. We had several scrimmages. Last time our people were here, they remember us talking in the preseason. We had some scrimmages. We learned a lot about our team in those three scrimmages.
Yeah, I think we did, and you know, we had three quality opponents come in. We had Tecumseh, Xenia, and Springboro, and it was convenient for us because all three were here at our place, so we liked that. We also anticipated the fact that we were going to have to go up to Toledo, and I think they prepared us very well for what we were able to face up in Toledo. And you know, anybody that was up there at the game realized that we jumped out to a pretty good lead. Then we came out and made some mental mistakes and put ourselves in a little bit of a hole, but we were able to pull out of it.
Yeah, we're going to break the game down here in just a little bit. As we talk a little bit about it, I think our people just assume you get on a bus, you go to Toledo, and you play a game, and you come back, and it's all good. There's a lot that goes into that. We had charter buses. We didn't use yellow buses, yellow units as we call them. Mostly because of it's hot, humid. You got the windows down. If you're driving 2 hours in construction, that can drain you. The mental preparation. Noah was talking about that. The mental preparation, being able to get off a bus, be ready to play, because most of the time we're on a 15, 20, maybe a 30-minute drive. And get off the bus and play is different than 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it definitely is. And we had plotted it out. The good thing is we had been to Toledo a couple times before, so we've kind of got a little bit of what we wanted to do. We also went this summer up to Bowling Green to a passing scrimmage, so we were able again to map out. I mean, actually, we had stopwatches and we were timing to make sure what's going on. Our big concern was the traffic. We were concerned about the traffic. We were concerned about making sure that we were in the right frame of mind when we got on the bus. And really, once you get on it, the bus trips go pretty quick. They don't drag on too much. And we were able to stop at a rest stop because we didn't get caught in traffic. So we thought that was important. But overall, there was a lot of logistics planned behind it. Yeah. We
now move into the game where, as you mentioned, we were able to jump out to a pretty good lead. We smacked them in the mouth pretty early. Noah Lyman was our guest student athlete today. Noah had a career night, over 200 yards passing. We'll talk a little bit more about him down the road, but he really kind of got us off to a great start. Our quarterback did a nice job. Darian Tips got a nice run to get us moving. We really had a lot of different pieces where the tempo was really going our way.
I think it was, and I think it surprised St. John's because St. John's had come into the season as one of the favorites in their league, and I think we really surprised them in the fact that we came out and we went at them quickly. You know, very rarely does our defense in the last 2 years, our defense has very rarely stopped somebody on the first drive, and we did that. And we know we're going to be a little bit better on defense. Offensively, I think that's pretty obvious. We have the firepower, but the big thing we've got to make sure we're playing defensively. And once we got that stopped, I think our offense fed on that. The problem is sometimes when you get into some mistakes and do some other things, give up a big play, the opposite happens, and that feeds off each other too. So just as something can create momentum, an offense or defense can also pull momentum back, and when we suffered that a little bit in the third quarter.
That last play, I remember in the second half, or excuse me, the last play in the second quarter, to me stands out as a play that might have been one of the play of the games. We had several play of the games when Derek Hike gets that sack and they don't have any timeouts left, and we go in the locker room up 27-7. Had they scored 27-14, and it might have changed a whole different
mindset. And you know, it's kind of one of those. It was a nice spot, I guess, to be coaching wise, because they just used their last time out. I'm on the field, and basically, you know, I always try to predict what the play is. Well, in that case, I said, guys, hey, it's got to be a pass, and they got to keep passing. They cannot run the football, and you know, so we knew we could tee off and go at them. So I think we had a little advantage with that, and the fact that they had no timeouts left. And Derek did a great job. The play before, you know, he had come under, and the guy hit him down pretty hard, so he went ahead and faked it, came outside, put him on a speed rush, and it was over.
We go into the third quarter, and that was a long quarter for the Indians in a lot of different ways. We, at one point in time, we come out, we get the ball, we fumble it on our first series. They turn around and they score pretty quickly.
Yeah.
They had a very good kicker who could kick very well, and they got a field goal, and we found ourselves up, but yet we felt like the game was not in our control. Not only that starts to happen, they start to get some scores and some momentum. Some of our guys start to go down. In fact, Katie Smith probably got the player of the quarter, and unfortunately, there were 4 straight plays where we had 5 guys down.
Yeah.
People cramping, just the dehydration, all those factors. And as a coach, you're trying to slow the game down a little bit to give those guys some rest, but at the same point in time, it becomes a strategic chess match.
It does. And, you know, I got to give, at this point, I really got to give our assistant coaches a ton of credit, because as I was trying to you know, maneuver the game, so to speak, on defense, and Troy Old was trying to maneuver the game on offense, we had a ton of guys that were in the background, assistant coaches that were, you know, coming up, okay, hey, you're going to have this guy as a fill-in, this guy as a fill-in, you know, and they're finding other people, and they're serving them up in the meantime, making sure guys have water. And one of the things that probably most people don't realize is, if I lose Nate Monin on defense, okay, I can substitute for Nate Monin, but Nate Monin is also on the punt team, he's also on the kickoff team, and so now Andrew Snyder has to go around while Josh Smith is trying to find backups. Andrew Snyder's going around making sure that we've got the proper people in the proper spots, and our guys in the box are calling down stuff. So it was an extreme and impressive group effort to be able to keep getting 11 people on the field until eventually everybody was all right again, and we weathered the storm.
Let's fast forward to the fourth quarter. The momentum again for them. They're getting the ball. They're moving the ball well. There were a couple times that we had opportunities to score that we couldn't. You know, we got in the red zone. We were able to get that done. I know that's cleanup stuff that we can fix.
Yeah.
We get up in the fourth quarter. Let's move it. We're at 1:20 to go in the fourth quarter. It's 3rd and long. It looks like we're probably on our 10-yard line, our own 10, and the clock is stopped. We either got to get a first down or we got to get a score to put this game away.
Yeah.
And out of the blue, let's talk about Coach Uhl, you know, and the play call to Darian Tips, and away he went.
Yes, and you know, we're sitting there and it's 3rd and 15, and my biggest concern was we're gonna have to, if we don't, you know, it's 3rd and 15's a lot to get, and you don't want to throw the ball. That's the problem. You don't want to throw the ball because then that'll stop the clock. So you got to decide: do we want to throw the ball, get a chance, or do we want to go ahead and run it, make them use some time, make them use a timeout? So we decided to go ahead and run it, make them use a timeout. Then that way, when they did get the ball back, if they did get the ball back, then then it would be at least a situation where they wouldn't have any clock. And Darian solved everybody's problems.
Darian goes 90 yards to score for the Indians. They go up at that point in time, 34-24, and. They do come back and score at the end of the game to make it 34-30. We walk out of there with a win against what you have mentioned, a quality opponent who is probably going to be one of the better teams in that league. They have a legitimate quarterback. They're a real deal. For us to get on and come home with a win, that says a lot for the Indians.
Oh, yeah, I think so. To go on the road and win, says a lot, because last year, as you remember the game, St. John's came down here. They suffered the same type of meltdown in the 3rd quarter. You're on the road. You're 2 hours away. You've been in school all day. This, and they weren't able to overcome it. And it was a close game when it happened. We were able to overcome it, and I give our kids a lot of credit. I told them in our Monday meeting, I said, because you guys, have such good chemistry, that's what got you through, because you guys pulled together. And there's always going to be bad things happen, and how you react to them is going to be the key to the whole deal. And I think they did a great job of being able to hold everything together, and beat a team that's won the track championship on the freshman level for the last 2 years. And we saw that the next day when their JV and freshman team came down here to Alexander Stadium to play. We saw the quality that they have for the next, coming up in the next 2 years.
The season starts the marathon. It's not a sprint. Now we move on to week 2, and you have a day or a few hours to enjoy your win, and then it's on to week 2. And here we are getting ready for Abandon, which will be our first home game on Friday night here at Alexander Stadium. Noah talked about 1 week at a time. We just got to focus on 1 week at a time. It's easy to look at week 3 or week 4 or week 5, but you really do have to take 1 week at a time because Urbana's got a program that is a great tradition. They are not coming in here with the idea they're going to roll over for us.
No.
So we have to take it one game at a time, and I know you're going to be ready for Urbana. What can we expect from a good program from Urbana Friday?
Urbana has gone through a couple head coaches because those guys have great success and they move on to other programs. And so they have a new coach this year, but he's brought in a little bit of new stuff, but it's kind of the same, and that is Urbana's going to run a spread offense. Urbana's going to run an attacking defense, and both of those cases are true again. They've got out of their 3-3 stack, got into a 4-4, but that's just more of an X's and O's thing. It's the mindset of their defense that's important, and that is those guys come after you. They've got a new quarterback this year, but they always have, it seems like they always have a 6'4" quarterback that can throw. And for the last 3 weeks, Xenia, Springboro, and Toledo St. John's, all three of those teams have had scholarship quarterbacks. Now this guy's only a sophomore. Whether or not he's going to be a scholarship quarterback remains to be seen, but he's an excellent quarterback. So we're looking at a spread offense that can throw the ball real well, has a nice complementary ground game. They got a big running back, a little running back that they complement one another, and I think they're very aggressive on defense.
We are moving to week 2, first home game of the season for the 2015 campaign. You talk about getting on a bus and having to go play. Now we get to play a home game. What's the difference? And obviously we know what those differences are, but for the people here in preparation, what does that do for having a home game versus having to get on a bus, whether you're going to Toledo, you're going to Trotwood, or you're going to Troy? What's the difference in preparation?
Well, I think it's more the logistics. I think it's more of just being comfortable. The guys have time after school to get out and be on their own for a little bit to relax. Whereas, last week it was, we had to get them out a couple minutes early, during 8th period, get them on a bus, and get them moving, in the right direction. And I think that's really the number one thing. Just you're not as hurried. But sometimes that's not bad. You look at it both angles. Sometimes when you have too much time to think about stuff, it gets to you. And that's why away games are not really that bad sometimes, because I think an away game you got to go boom, 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 here, the game starts. Whereas a home game, there's a lot of time sitting around doing it, not a whole lot. So I think both of them have their advantages.
Noah is our Spotlight Student Athlete of the Week that we're speaking to here after you. Talk a little bit about Noah's performance. Obviously, he talked about the legacy that his family has and through. But for us Friday night, he really made some big-time plays that really were earmarks for really a big Indian win in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Noah is that kind of player. He's a loose guy. In terms of he's always relaxed, always got a smile on his face, but that doesn't mean he's not ready to play. And I think he has matured greatly over the last 3 years to the point now where he knows how to prepare himself. He knows how to play. He can block, and he does a lot of things that most wide receivers just think about doing. And he was in there having a great game, but he's not satisfied. He wanted to get a little bit more, and I think next week he's going to do the same thing. So it's just a great example of a kid that this summer he had to sit out a couple of our passing scrimmages because he had a concussion, and a couple of other receivers had big days, and you could look over and he was feeling a little down while the other receivers were having a great day, and then now it's his turn. And we're happy for him. He's just a great kid.
Will be a big part of the Indians' offense this year, and certainly we'll look forward to speaking with him. Coach, thank you for taking time with us here. We'll see you next week as we talk about week 2 and hopefully a win for the Indians. We will be back to speak with our Student Athlete of the Week, Mr. Noah Lyman, when we return. Welcome back to the second half of the Bill Nees Football Coaches Show, and with me now is senior Noah Lyman. And Noah, we are here talking a little bit about your game Friday night, but before we get into that big game, let's go back and let's tell the people a little bit about yourself. Your last name will ring a bell to a lot of our Piqua community. Your grandfather, your father, your uncles, the legacy of the Lymans in Piqua football is synonymous. So, but even before then, let's talk a little bit about you and what did you visualize as a goal for you this senior year? You get one senior year. What were some of the things that were coming in your mind that you were hoping to achieve this year?
Well, my number one goal as a senior is definitely to make the playoffs. I mean, I guess that's everybody's going to the team, but that's my number one goal. And then another one of my goals is to make first team all G-Walk. I've always wanted that award, and I think it'd be great to have.
Well, certainly well on your way on doing both of those, with the Indians capturing their first win of the season on Friday night at Toledo St. John's, 34-30, and what was probably what may say your career night and what was maybe your best football game. And what a great way to start off your senior year and the season for the Indians. Talk a little bit about, before we talk about that specific game, we had several scrimmages that, we had our moments that we looked good. There were some moments that we obviously need to clean up. What was the thoughts going into Toledo St. John's for you, knowing that, we had to go on the road? We had played them last year, of course, but, you're on a bus ride for 2 hours, and you got to get off that and be ready to play. What were some of the things that were going through your mind?
A couple things that go through my mind is I was kind of worried about the bus ride. I mean, that's always a concern. Sitting on the bus for 3 hours, it's not always good for you don't really stay loose and everything. So that was number one. But I think the team did a good job of staying focused on the bus, knowing what the goal was, knowing what the mission was, and go out there and getting it done.
Well, let's get right into the game. Noah, it was no secret that you had what was a career night for you, and one that a lot of people remember for a long time. What were some of the key moments you felt like in the game that you were a part of that really kind of helped the Indians secure that win?
Well, I think my catch on the first drive, that was probably the biggest one, because I think that really got us going. It's always good to score on the first drive, and that kept the drive alive, and we ended up scoring. And I also think another one of the biggest moments was the time right before halftime, when nobody lined up across from me, and I went for about 79 yards to the number 1 yard line, and we scored right before halftime.
That was the one that we couldn't believe. We're standing in the stands, and there was no one lined up, and we thought, oh, there's certainly we're missing something on that. And sure enough, Roop did a nice job getting the ball to you, and I think you were a little surprised.
I was. I couldn't believe it. I didn't go in the huddle, so he assumed I was going to come out of the huddle, but I was already lined up, so he had no clue.
Let's talk a little bit about another crucial catch, and we're already talked about two. There were multiple catches that you had catching for over 200 yards that game. The game in the second half, the one that was third down and long, and you come back to it and catch it and was able to keep the clock moving and keep their defense on the field for yet another series.
Yeah, that was a pretty big one too. That kept the drive alive, and that's always a good feeling. And we ended up scoring off that drive. So,
well, when you look at the week to week, for example, we have Urbana.
Yeah.
And I know everybody knows that Lyman's coming up after that, and that's a big one. Everyone's circled on the schedule, and then we start getting into our G-Walk schedule. Yeah. As a player, I would imagine you would have a lot of distractions. It would be easy to start thinking ahead. But Urbana's first home game of the season, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, you just got to make sure you don't lose focus. I mean, every game is important. You can't lose focus of that. You just got to stay focused on one game at a time, and we'll just go down the road as it goes.
Let's talk a little about the Lyman legacy. And I know that we can talk about stories forever about your grandpa and your dad and your uncle and what that means to be a Piqua Indian. When you put the helmet on, as some of our other players on this roster, you are following in the footsteps of some others. What's it like for you as not just a senior, but as a Piqua football player, knowing that you are walking in the shoes and playing in games that your dad and your grandpa and your uncles were a part of?
I mean, it's really big to me. It means a lot to me. I mean, just to carry on the legacy that my grandpa and my uncle and my father have left, it just really means a lot to me, and I just want to make them proud. That's my number one thing. That's what I think of when I go out in the field, is to make my family proud.
Speaking of family, I had the opportunity, and I was telling you this the other day, I had the opportunity to sit behind your mom in that game, and I don't know that I've ever seen a more energetic lady. She was very enthused about you, but not just about you, about your team. Your dad's a little bit more laid back. Yeah. But clearly you have your family, your grandpa was there, and there's a true genuine interest, not just in you, but the team, and obviously you carrying the Lyman name on the back of your jersey, that's got to be extra special for you.
Yeah, it's such a great feeling.
No, as we move into the season, and obviously you had talked about the playoffs, and I'm sure coaches, and those are all goals that we talk about throughout the summer, and of course into the preseason. Now that we're here in the season, from a player's perspective, what can our community, what are some things that they may not know about you that they wouldn't necessarily see in a stat line or in the newspaper? What are some of the things that you're looking forward to doing as you graduate and becoming into the next phase of your journey?
Obviously stats don't show that I'm a hard worker. I just think that I'm a hard worker, and I deserve like everything that I've done so far. It just shows that hard work really pays off in the end.
Well, watching you, and not just in football, watching you in baseball, you're an athlete. You generally have a lot of passion for the game, a lot of energy, and it's certainly a pleasure to watch you. We look forward to watching more great things from you this year. We should mention you have a brother who is a freshman, who is on the varsity now, soccer team. He worked his way from the JV to the varsity team on Saturday. He tried to outdo you. You have a big night Friday night. He comes back Saturday and scores 2 goals for the JV game, and then throw him in their varsity and gets the first 2 goals there. So I guess he wants to make sure you know who he is as well.
Oh yeah, we got some competition going on right now.
Well, that's good competition for you guys. It's good for the Indians. And Noah, thanks for being with us today. And we certainly wish you well as we roll into week 2 and to the rest of the season for the Indians.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our segment this week of the Bill Nees Football Coaches Show here. And we welcome you to come to the stadium on Friday night as the Indians host the Hill Climbers from Urbana in week 2 action. And as Noah said, it's 1 week at a time. And we look forward to you coming and watching, hearing the sights and sounds of high school football here at Alexander Stadium. We'll see you next week, and remember those 3 important words: we are Piqua.